Hello, and welcome to Yin Radio and TV. This is Twin Flame Love with your guest hosts, Skye and David. You can find us and more at yinradiotv.com and skyeburns.com. Hi, I'm Skye Burns Dunn, and I'm so happy to be able to share my own story of abuse, loss, healing, and how I found the love of my life. I know it's difficult when you're in that place of not knowing, that place of pain and searching for something, anything that can help take away the pain, anything that can help you understand what's going on around you, and just someone to share that experience with that respects you and loves you in the way that you respect and love yourself. And part of that comes back in because so many of us don't know how to do that for ourselves, so it's hard to transfer that into a relationship. And that's one of the things we want to talk about. To begin with, I have a master's degree in counseling. I've been practicing in private practice for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I was an ordained minister in the Christian faith. I consider myself more of a Gnostic mystic at this stage. I was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, by very abusive parents. We were in the church every time the doors were open, but at home, it was a completely different story. There was no love that we're taught about that Jesus shows us or that we feel from our own spiritual deities. There was just abuse. There was molestation. There were beatings. I was shot by the time I was 3. The verbal abuse, I feel like was the worst for me. The verbal abuse is what takes you down. That's the stuff that just removes every bit of individuality, every bit of understanding who you are and what you came here to be. At least it did for me. So for the years that went on with the abuse, I struggled. By the time I got to high school, I was struggling more. I had a hard time understanding how to connect with people. All I knew at this point was abuse. I didn't really know what it was like to be unconditionally loved, except by my grandmother. I was very promiscuous in high school, as they say. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but when you're doing it in a way to get love from someone, it creates quite a bit of disturbance inside your soul and inside your mind. So as I went through that, I gained more hurt. I was raped. I became an exotic dancer, as they like to say, because my father told me the only thing I was good for was being a stripper, that I would never amount to anything. So I did that for a little while, was raped again, and quit. I couldn't do it anymore. It was too hard. It took another, 20 years almost after that before I finally found an ability to heal. I went to therapists. They couldn't help me. They just sat with their mouths open when they heard my story. No one was able to help me transmute this abuse energy that I was carrying inside me that was bringing me down so incredibly. I was in church all of the time thinking that Jesus was going to help me, God was going to help me, and sure, spiritual deities can help, but we have to find a way to transmute that ourselves as well for our own health. Finally, I left the state that I had grown up in, and I moved to upstate New York to Omega Institute to live as a seasonal staff person while I worked on my master's degree, and there I found shamanism, and there I was able to integrate shamanism and my master's degree in the counseling and found so much more healing. I was able to release all of the abuse memories and pain almost instantaneously. the biggest part was there's still those behaviors that we have to shift and change. And so that's what I began to work on after that. I left Omega in 2011, 2012. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, doing my internship at a local hospital and got to know this amazing man online, but really wasn't sure what I thought about him at the time either. I was still working through some of those behavioral changes. Well, eventually he and I met, and as they say, the rest was history. He's an incredible man, so I'd like to introduce you now to the man that has loved me through so many pains, so many misunderstandings of myself, and has been the most incredible cheerleader and support to help me get to where I am now, so that I'm sharing my story prolifically with so many different people, with so many different avenues, and not embarrassed about it. And he's not embarrassed, and that was always the thing for me. I was afraid that he would be embarrassed, whoever this man would be, because every man I met would turn away from me once they found out I was, quote, damaged. So here's the night that did not say that. I'd like to introduce you to my husband, David.
Hey, this is David Dunn. I'm this wonderful woman's partner, lover, everything. I'm a bit of a self-taught person. I've spent most of my life dealing with struggle, pain, alienation, isolation in many forms like everyone else does. And with her in my life, meeting her, I've grown so much, changed so much as a person. And we kind of want to show that to people, that you don't have to be perfect to have a perfect relationship. You become something more, something realer, something more beautiful than any imagination of perfect you can have once you do meet that person and then you grow together. We often both say that relationships are nature's way of helping us grow, forcing us to grow, pushing us in those places. And it's that love, that care for each other that becomes that fuel, becomes that meaning for facing those growth events, facing that stress, and becoming something more, both together. I often say that who I am as a person does not exist without her now, because every single part of me is intertwined with all the times when she was there, when she was the person that said, the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself is not all there is. I see something more. I see something beautiful. And that trust that you have in that person grows to eventually be such a trust that you believe their vision they have for you, and you work hard to find it, and you live it, and then it validates, and it grows, and it becomes this beautiful thing inside you that eventually blossoms. And then you don't even realize it as it's going on until a month later, a year later, 6 years later, who knows? You turn around and you realize that this thing that this person has been saying you are, you feel it, you see it, you recognize it.
Yes.
And that's one of the most beautiful things about living and loving together with someone and building that world that you have with them. With that said, we want to talk about a little bit what exactly our relationship is. Like, people have this word of twin flame love, sacred love, and they want to know what that means. They have this feeling, this idea of what that can be, this hope, this dream. And we want to talk about what it really takes to grow this thing. And we want to show you that we're not people who had advantages coming in. We worked our way from the bottom all the way to the top. And whatever darkness, whatever light that came, we embraced both equally, and we grew together because of it. And we want you to see that that can be done, that it's not this fantasy, it's not this thing that you raise your hopes for when you see a movie, but then when the credits roll down, you feel like it's out of reach. It's not out of reach. We can do it together. And we want to show you that. We want to live it, because we really do live it. And how we live it is something that just you breathe it in. You feel it every single day. It's not something where you check off on your list, oh, did I do this? No, it's opportunistic. You face it with the challenges of life. And as we go through this segment and we talk about how to protect and how to nurture and how to build this love, we'll share with you some of the experiences we've had, the challenges we faced.
Yeah, because as David was saying, when it comes to protecting and nurturing love, it's so different from how media portrayal is of love. But then there are a lot of similarities as well. Every day when he gets up to go to work, the first thing he does when he gets to work is send me a text. In his text, it's not just, hey, I'm here. His texts are, my beautiful goddess wife, I'm so thankful that I'm married to you. I'm so thankful that I know you. Your smile lights up my day. You're so beautiful to me. Your heart is so true and so warm. When I wake up and see these things from him with the 40 emojis that he always adds at the end, which never look the same on my phone as they do on his.
Lost in translation.
Yeah. But once I see that, first, I know he's safe at work, and that makes me feel really good. The second thing is, I read the words, and I drink them in. Because as much as it's important for him to say them for himself, and for me to hear them, they're even more important for me to drink in, because they're like a healing balm for my soul. They continue to heal me every time I read them. That crazy little camel emoji is hysterical. My husband's of Moroccan descent, hence the camel that he likes to use.
Yeah, you throw a little queen in there, a little kissy face, and a camel, and some hearts, So, every single day we've been together, I have sent that. Every single day I send that message. And what I've told her and what I've lived by is that your love is not something I take for granted. Our love is a living thing, and every single day matters. Every single second matters. Every single day is an opportunity for me to nurture it, to spread water and light and warmth onto this living thing that is grown in between us, that is intertwined within us. And every day that happens. And you have to put in that effort. And it's not an effort of like, oh, I need to do this. It's not an obligation. It's a passion. It's a care. It's something that means something to both of us.
I think one of the things, because the way it means something to both of us, is we both have this unique desire to have the words of love and affection and the attention. Mm-hmm. And for us, so our love language has a lot to do with how we show love, and it works for both of us. Mm-hmm. But there are relationships where their love languages are different. One needs verbal, whereas the other one needs affection or needs gifts. Mm-hmm. And so when that's the case, what would you suggest? If one is not verbal but they know the other one is verbal, should they just work to try to be more verbal for that one?
Well, one of the things that really helps me when there's something that you care about or something that is coming from your world that is a little bit different from mine is what I do first is I find the passion that you have for it. I find what it means for you, because rather than forcing myself, I'm going to naturally find the pathways that tie into my emotions. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that drives me is how much I care about you, how much I love you. And so what you care about, I'm going to be cared about. Mm-hmm. I'm caring about. I'm going to be passionate about that too. So if I know that you you love to have gifts on your birthdays mm-hmm. or just little things on your half birthdays. Before I was with you, half birthdays was never really a thing for me. But I'm not going to poo-poo that or say that that's meaningless, because it means something to you. And if it means something to you, it means something to me. And I'm going to put the effort in.
Well, and that's what I think is important when it comes to relationships, is understanding what the other person needs. Mm-hmm. But also understanding what your limits are on giving what they need, and finding that place where you can still give what they need without giving too much of yourself that's depleting your own natural care and self-love and that sort of thing.
Yes. That actually brings up a very good point. You'll hear us talk about balance all the time on this show, and one of the things that has helped me the most in learning how to balance and protect a relationship is understanding that a relationship at all times is three things. It's my own individual world, her own individual world, but also the shared world. And you have to be aware, you have to spend time focusing on what all three of those mean and what the health is of all three. Are they expressing equally? Are they having time to breathe? Are they being protected? Are they being seen by the other person? Because when one of these fails or gets its health drained a little bit, it's going to affect the other two worlds. All three of those worlds are linked at the same time. And without a health in all three, you won't have a balance in all three.
Right. Well, I feel that it's so important to have your own self-nurturing.
Yes.
To know yourself fully. You can't really love or give to a relationship until you've really loved and given to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what took me until 42 or so years old, was it took me that long to heal enough so that I could actually understand, oh, wait, I come first in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the leading lady of my own life.
Mm-hmm.
There is no one else that's going to come and be the leading person in my life. That's craziness.
Right.
And it's not. You're not even the leading lady in my life.
I hope not.
But to get to that place of understanding yourself and healing yourself so that you can actually give yourself that love, that's part of that process. But let's say you're already in a relationship and you already know that you are not really loving yourself fully, that you don't have a lot of boundaries in the relationship, that your relationship really needs something to help spruce it up, to help you connect better, to communicate better. I often recommend a book by a friend of mine, Miles Schertz. It's called Conscious Communication. And the book goes through some really amazing, almost like a role-playing, to see how to consciously communicate with another person when they come at you and they're so angry that all they're doing is screaming. Well, instead of getting back into the screaming match, you have to diffuse the situation and talk through it. And I would highly recommend that as a starting point for couples learning to communicate if they're having difficulties in that. But also beginning to find your own path to what makes you happy. And sitting down as a couple and finding what you can do to have your time, his time, and our time, or your world, his world, and your shared world, as the way David describes it. There's no other way to have a healthy, balanced relationship. And no, it's not all light and rainbows and unicorns at all. People forget that true romance and love takes work, but it doesn't feel like work when you're in it with a partner that you truly enjoy and that is understanding you and respecting your own ideas and ways of doing things.
Yeah, definitely, because the thing is, like, you guys are partners, and no one's going to come into it perfect. Like Skye was talking about how you want to have this idea of who you are, what you need, and what your desires are before you get into a relationship, so you know yourself, so you're not consumed. Now, that doesn't mean you have it perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And that doesn't mean you have to reach some prerequisite before you get into the relationship. The thing is, you have to make sure when you're in a relationship that things going on, the way you guys form and connect together, is doing so in such a way that these things continue to get formed. They continue to get hashed out and molded, and your partner knows what is important to you. What is it that you're working on? What are things that you're worried about? For instance, Skye was talking about how she had so much worries of these past memories of where guys wouldn't be able to understand her. They'd see her passion, they'd see her power, they'd see her independence, and they'd be threatened by it, and they'd try to stamp it down. So she'd have this expectation that this would happen. Now, the fact that I know this allows, and we communicate about it, allows me to be the mirror that when that reflection comes up, I show her something different. And then I realize, this is a thing that is important to her that she's working on, so I don't misinterpret it into a different way. It's very important to know where your partner's wounds are. not to hurt them, not to have power over them, but to help them, to be gentle, so that you are the calm wind and the calm rain on their wounds that soothes them, and you're not sandpaper making things worse. We say that relationships and love are like a living thing, and like a living thing, it remembers. So when you hurt it, when you scar it, those scars don't fade. They stay there, but you can build something on top of it. You can make these scars have meaning. So when you have arguments, but you keep that argument from reaching to such a point where you're spitting poison at each other, where you're being malicious, now you have an argument where rather than reaching that point and it getting worse, you can go the next day knowing that you went through this together. You're stronger. There's so many times where we've had challenges and we've had issues where we talk about it, but we never reach the point of hurting each other. Instead, we know that, oh, we can handle these things. We can talk it out. I know when I talk to my wife and I tell her how I feel, she's not going to crumble or blame all this self on her. She's going to be able to listen, and she's also going to be able to hold space and allow me to speak my voice and listen, and then she's going to also take that and care about it. She holds it precious too, so then I feel safe, and that calms me down, and I don't have to worry about yelling or being aggressive because I know I'm going to be heard, and I know I'm in a safe place. And I feel like it's the same way for you.
Yes, I think what you're saying about being aggressive when you're feeling like you're not being heard, well, yeah, because when you know you're not being heard, it's so vital to go, no, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, and trying to pound that person into listening, but that's not what helps. To me, I think the biggest thing that's helped me know how to best communicate with you is seeing you as a little boy and also seeing you as another part of me. Because if we are twin flames, then you are part of my soul.
Yes.
And therefore, if I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. And even if we weren't twin flames, if we're just people that happen to love each other deeply, which to me is what love just needs to be, just down-to-earth, balanced love. I don't want to do something to you that's going to cause you pain,
right,
because that will in turn cause me pain. I know that we've talked about some of the challenges that people can face. One thing I wanted to mention is like resentment, because if there's anybody listening right now that have already been in a relationship for a while, they've probably had some resentment brewing. And I know for us, one of the biggest things we do so we keep from resentment brewing is we talk about everything.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah. It is so much better to talk and risk your partner getting a little perturbed, a little aggravated, but then also explaining why you meant what you meant, and trusting that she will trust you in your interpretation, and getting that off your chest, because it's when you hold on to it that it festers and it grows. And the thing is, it's never going to release when you want it to. It's never going to come out in this prepared statement where you communicate exactly what you want to the person and they're just magically going to get it. No, it doesn't happen like that. What happens is we hold it in, we don't talk about it until it bubbles up and explodes.
And that's not healthy,
Yeah.
which is what we don't do. So let's talk about what we should do, and
Right.
less of what we don't do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we make sure we do, as he was mentioning, is we use our voices. It's so important, and this is in every aspect of life where it's so vitally important that you use your voice. Not necessarily using your voice in ways to hurt, because sometimes that's so easily to be done, but using our voice to simply describe what's going on for you. If he were to do something to me that hurt me, and I could validly go to him and say, what you did to me that hurt me. Yes, I'm taking responsibility for going to him and saying this hurt me. He gets to take responsibility for saying, I'm sorry, what can we do to fix this? If you're not using your voice, your partner doesn't know what's going on. They're not mind readers. Not all of us are mind readers anyway. Another thing is like he mentioned, you can't let things fester. That goes back to using the voice. And protecting your individual and shared desires. I do not understand video games. I am not fond of most sports. Let's see, anime, I'm getting used to it. These are things that are very important to him. Hockey, hugely important to him. For me, not so much. But I understand that those are important to him, and so I give him space to enjoy those things. Whereas the things that I prefer doing are connecting with my friends on Facebook, reading, watching the Hallmark Channel.
Lifetime.
I try not to watch Lifetime. It can be so depressing. These are the things that we do as far as our individual and respecting those. Our shared desires are really simple. And those are, most people, your shared desires are simple. You know what those are. But it's allowing that other person that space to just be who they are. You fell in love with them because of all these things that make them who they are. So when you give them the space to allow those things to flourish, it makes for a happier, healthier relationship. Watching what you say to each other as far as protecting what we mean and protecting the trust we have in what other people mean. So that would be like miscommunication and misinterpretation, which comes back to using the voice.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we have this thing where we call the interpretation game, and you'll see it so much, like, on TV, where you have this, this stereotypical gender interrelation going on where a guy will say something and the girl will twist it in the worst way possible, and then he'll get all flustered and be like, that's not what I mean, and then she'd be like, well, you really mean this, and then it goes on and on and on. That happens in every single relationship, and what a guy has to understand is when a woman is wondering and creating her interpretation of what she thinks you meant, what that really comes back to is trust. Do they feel safe? Because if they're not feeling safe, they're going to interpret it in a negative way because they're not sure. And also, if you have people in the past that have done things in a certain way, you're naturally going to associate with that pathway. So you have to be very aware of trust, of this is really what I meant, but not just trust me on that, but I will show you every single day that this is what I meant, so you can trust, so you have real things to hold on to that validates that.
And he has definitely done that for me. When we first got together, so many of the things I struggled with, he was using me as an example in all of this, by the way. He would say something, and I would hear something completely different. And I don't know that it's, quote, all women, or if it's even, quote, feminine energy, or if it's just certain people have certain...
Nah, guys do it, too.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like he often was just saying things that were hurtful, but he wasn't. That's not actually what he was saying. I was just changing it in my head. But what we did every time I felt that way, I'd say, this is what I heard. And he's like, no, this is what I said. And I'm like, no, but you meant this. No, I meant exactly what I said. So again, that's something really important for us to look at. I feel like that also goes in with so much of our, this is perfect for this, so much of the understanding that we have around gender, we've learned in the media, and we've learned from old school, and we've learned from this, and how much of it is actually accurate, because we've discovered women or men are not that different. And the feminine masculine energy, whether you're straight, gay, bi, pan, whatever, it's still feminine and there's still masculine energy, and both sexes have a balance of that, and that's what's really important.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've learned a lot of misrepresented ideas from the past about how men and women, and this goes beyond gender roles, but how we're supposed to communicate. Men aren't taught how to feel.
No.
They're not taught that it's okay to have emotions, that it's okay to express those. And even a lot of women have taken on that, quote, societal masculine idea that they're supposed to bottle things up. So this comes right back to using your voice, to talking about things so you don't build up resentment.
Yeah, and a lot of people, it's hard for them to verbalize, to use their voice and talk about what they want. Because a lot of times they don't know what they want. And it's only when you bump up against it do you know, oh, I like this or I don't like this. But it's the exploration and able to have that dialogue with your partner that gets you to that point where you can bump into it and be like, oh, this is something I like. Or you feel that little twinge of like, oh, wait, this isn't exactly what I want. And then you can use your voice and speak up about it. And then it's small there, so it's easy to move around it and do something so both parties are happy. You know, it's a win-win situation.
You know, it's interesting because we're talking about all this, and I'm thinking of replacing stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And then I say, oh, you like sports and video games, and I like Hallmark Channel and talking to my friends, which sound like typical gender stereotypes, but they're just the things that we happen to like.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, it's that, and then what happens is in between those spaces is intimacy. Mm. People have such an idea of a person or about what people are, but I guarantee you 99% of that changes once you become intimate with the person. For instance, this is one thing, like I used to beat myself up a lot about like how I felt I looked. I'm sure we all do. You know, oh, I don't look like a model. You know, how is someone going to love me when I look like this? Oh, look, there's this one flaw I saw on the side of my head I'm hyper-focusing on. Everybody's going to hate me because of it. But when you meet a person and you become intimate and you get close and you show that vulnerability and then you become to love the person and you become to see the person, that doesn't matter. What matters is not what the person looks like. What matters is how it feels to be around that person. And that's what is very important to protect. That's what it's important to nurture, is what it feels like to be around this person. What is your normal with this person? Is it something you look forward to, you can't wait to get home, or are you dreading it? Are you wasting time at work hoping to maybe get home when she's asleep so you don't have to deal with her?
That's what I think is important to talk about, because if someone's in a relationship where they're kind of feeling a little stuck and they've got some resentment that's already been breeding, and we're telling them to use their voice, and we're telling them to make sure that they understand each different world and their shared world is one. And the other thing that's really important is to find those things about that other person that you first fell in love with.
Yes.
And if that's the only thing that you can even, like, find about that person at this stage, then you just throw love into that, and you just look at that, and you just look at that. Like, when I get upset at you, because, yes, we do get mad at each other, we just don't fight and argue. I mean, we discuss. There's no yelling in our house. But when I get really irritated with you, one of the first things I do is somehow I automatically begin to see you as a little boy.
Right.
And I don't want to hurt that little boy because I know how sensitive he is. I know that he can be shy. I know that he can hide behind a concrete wall and, like, pull his heart back in. And I don't ever want you to experience that. And I definitely don't want to be the person to bring that about in you with any of my actions or words. And so when I see that little thing, then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on that, and I'm just going to give him love. I'm just going to shine love to him. Even if I don't want to look at him or talk to him, I'm just going to hold love for him in my heart. And sometimes that's the best I can do. But as I'm doing that, then it begins to grow, and you soften, and I soften, and it begins to change, and then we're able to talk calmly and rationally, even if I need to leave the house and go play with the llama down the street, which I have done too.
Yeah. Let's talk about this for a little bit, because this is also something that I did with her, where that's one of the most major choices I've ever made in learning how to be less of an asshole to people, especially her, is seeing the little girl in her. And what that means is I am all the parts of me that want to protect, that wants to nurture, all the parts of me that are the best parts, that are the constructive parts, the best positive male emotions that I have, my instincts. They tied into protecting and caring for people that I love. And when you're in the thick of it, when you're angry, when you're tired and you're bitter, it's so easy to be like, oh, she's being an asshole to me, so F her, or she, screw that, I don't even want to deal with it. For me, it's impossible to do that when I'm holding on to that little girl, because all my instincts, all my emotions, they're rising up because they know what that means. They know how precious that is. And then it's so much easier to get through the times where it's so easy to close up, where it's so easy to be resentful, to throw that wall. Because how can I be an asshole or say F this to a little girl? Like, how am I going to throw up a wall or demonize this person next to me when I'm seeing this little girl in my heart who's twirling around with grass stains on her feet and just wants to love and protect? Like, these are the things that we hold on to. And maybe it sounds kind of hokey or cheesy to some people, but the thing is, that doesn't matter. What really matters is the strength of the feeling, because that feeling is what's going to get you through those tough times. It's going to be the counterbalance to all the petty stuff, the wanting to demonize your partner, wanting to say he deserved it, or it was okay for me to yell at them because they were acting like this. And, you sidestep so many pathways of blame and instead go to the places of protection and responsibility and being that higher self that people talk about. I mean, what is a higher self but a person who can stand up and then hold that burden and that weight and then choose something better? You want to be able to have the strength where you can create balance and harmony in a place where there's imbalance and strife. And those come from those deep-seated emotions. Like she was talking about, find that thing that you first loved about them. Protect it. Let that be the foundation from which you build and you grow from. For me, when I saw her, the first time I saw her smile, I loved her. I recognized it immediately. That's why I always often say relationships are not about promises. They're about recognition. It's recognizing that who this person is someone that I can't help but love. She's amazing, she's beautiful, and I want to protect that. And I always want to live in a world where her light shines and I can love her. It doesn't matter if we're together. I don't need her to do anything for me. I feel this love because I recognize who she is. And that's why it's so important to have that vision personally of who she is, this little girl, the warrior woman, the princess, the debutante, the shaman, the minister, the teacher, the healer, all these different roles, all these different sides. She's a jewel with very many facets, and everybody is. It's just up to us to take on that opportunity and that challenge of seeing what all those different facets are. And in the meantime, as you do that, you see all the different facets of you. Who I am, I often say, and I said it earlier, that I am who I am right now does not exist without her. Because all the things that I've learned to respect and love because of her, because of my love for her, I've also found within me. I learned how to have fun. I learned how to dance and be goofy and giggle and be adorable through her. She is my adorable guru. Like, she got it locked down. Anybody who brings the adorable game, you got the queen right here. And I wouldn't have learned that. I wouldn't have seen it if I didn't learn how to love her, if I didn't protect it, and then watch it grow in her, but also spread into me, which goes back to what she's saying. We are together. We're intertwined.
It's funny that he says that because my college sweetheart always would say to me, "You have too much fun. You play too much." And I would ask, "Well, what would you have me do? What's life for? Do you want me to just go to a job and come home and be morose? Or should I work and have fun and enjoy my time being here as a spiritual being, having a human experience?" One of the quotes I started using back then on my email was, remember to have a life while you're, quote, making a living.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of just making a living, have a life. And that just drove him crazy. But that's the thing I have with you, is that we have a life.
Oh, yeah.
We have fun. He was so nervous and scared when we first met. Oh, my goodness. I think that's why it's easy for me to kind of see the little boy in him, because he was...
And I'm glad, because the thing is, while she was seeing the little boy, what I was seeing was a monster. I was seeing the person that I didn't like to see in the mirror. I was seeing the person I was afraid to become. I was seeing the person that everybody else said I was, or people who were angry at not getting what they wanted from me would then demonize me as. It's so very easy when you grow up in a world where people don't treat you as well as they could, or you don't have that nurturing environment around you, where it's so easy to fall into that muck. But if you keep strong, if you keep that hope, even if you're in the darkest, deepest pits of that mud, you can find partners there who will help dig you out together.
Well, the lotus flower grows in mud.
Yeah.
It's the only place for it to be.
Yeah, right next to that fire, too, you know.
Yeah.
And, God, like, that's the thing. There's so much struggle in our histories. There's so much that we've overcome and overcome together. And the thing is, that stress, that challenge, that creates depth. And when you do things together, when you have shared struggles, shared challenges, you have so much depth. God, I remember times where it was 3 o'clock in the morning on Thanksgiving Day, and I get a call that my brother's car is in the middle of
being impounded.
Yeah, and stolen by people, and I need to go get it in the middle of the night. And she's there, and we're having to find these people, get the keys. She's driving with a knife in her pocket, and it's a crazy night. It's a night you would wish on nobody, and it was horrible. It was stressful, but at the end of the day, well, at the end of the morning, whatever the day was, God, you have this memory where you know you have a ride or die chick. You have a woman that is with you through thick or thin, and she keeps her head, and she knows how to be sweet and kind, even in the darkest times.
Yeah.
And, you know, that stays with you.
Yeah, because there was 5 people, I think. We had to drive an hour back to their home because they wanted to take his car because he got arrested, and they had his keys. So, yeah, we learned, and that was our first, we'd only been living together a month at that point. So that was the first introduction he really had to the warrior princess carrying her own knife, which TSA has taken away from me. I'm going to have to buy some new ones. One thing I want to make sure is clear that when we talk about is interdependence versus codependence. We depend on each other, but we also have such a strong self-reliance, and we understand the difference between codependency and interdependency. Any relationship is going to have interdependency. It's the only way we work. Look at the world. We all work. We need our garbage man. We need the people that sell us food. We need the people to cut our food. We need someone that makes the cleaning products. We need all of these different things to make our life work. We all have to work together. And in a relationship, a lot of times there's this enmeshment that begins to happen because people don't understand how do we work together as an interdependent unit, but don't become codependent. And I feel the place where that works is still maintaining your own world, and that your partner maintains his or her own world. And then when you have that shared world, that's where you can kind of work together. The codependency for me comes in when you're almost being vampire-like. And you need that person to feel good. You need that person to get up in the morning. These are not healthy relationships. I need him, sure, but I don't need him to feel good. I don't need him to get up. I don't need him to do my day. But I need him in my life because he's so precious to me. Mm-hmm. That's the difference with codependency. I was raised by a very codependent parent and have worked many years to shift those behaviors that I was taught to change them into a healthy behavioral pattern so that I'm not codependent, that I don't need you to need me.
Right.
Because I don't need you to need me.
No, it's not a dependency, you know, and it goes back to that my world, her world, shared world thing. Like, you have to be able to, what that means is you're putting in time in all 3 of those. which means you're putting time into yourself, which is a good thing, because when you're doing that, then you have things to talk about with your partner. Oh, what'd you do today? Instead of, oh, nothing, what did you do? And then you just sit there, you have this rich tapestry to unfold and share with them. Because, I mean, this is what it's about. You're in a relationship with this person because you like how it feels to be around them, you love how it feels to be around them, but you love sharing with them. This is the person that should be who you share with the most, who you get the most enjoyment and celebrate sharing with.
Like going to the fair.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how much fun that was when you were little and you went to the fair? And you were just running around and you're having such a good time, and there's cotton candy and there's funnel cakes and candied apples. There's a fair this weekend, so that's all that's on my mind. It was such an exuberant experience, and you shared that with your friends, and it was fun to have that connection with them, and those are really good memories. Well, that's the same thing that I feel is the best in a relationship, is having that partner, that best friend that you go traipsing through the fair with. Well, he might be not traipse as much as I traipse, but we go traipsing through the fair, and we're holding hands, and we're giggling, and we're just laughing, we're enjoying ourselves, we're being kids, and we're not caring what other people are thinking or how other people are seeing us. It's just, at that moment, it's just our world. We are, of course, conscious that we're not hurting other people in the process, but I mean, you know, who am I hurting with 4 bags of cotton candy but myself?
But yeah, I mean, like God, the most precious moment in my life is our wedding in Ireland. You know, these are the moments that stick with you for the rest of your life, that are priceless. No one can take them away from you, and you want those moments to be beautiful. You want that whole feeling of your life to be beautiful, that shared world, and that's what you live for. Like, that is what will motivate you. This will be something, it's not just do this to have a great relationship, it's do this so you have something that grows and nurtures you and lifts you up. No matter what stress I'm under, I mean, I can look at the picture of my wife here and I see, and then I'm taken back to these moments that we've had together. And I get a brief oasis in time where the only thing that matters is the sound of her voice, the feel of her next to me. Like, my body literally aches when I pull away in the morning and I have to get up and go to work and leave her for a bit of time, because who we are and who we've nurtured ourselves and who's this world that we've created together is on such a level that even our bodies, it's instilled in our bones and how we act and react.
See, like I was born with the gift of healing. It's something I'd always had. My parents thought I was the devil because I could see things, hear things, know things, and heal. They didn't understand it. But with him, that's not something that he knew when we first got together, was how to heal with energy. Mm-hmm. But there was something I found out really early on. If he just puts his arm on my hip at night, I literally feel like I'm getting a massage all the way through to my hip bone. I can feel it in my joint as his energy penetrates my skin, my fat, my muscle. Well, there is fat on my hips. My skin, my fat, my muscles, down to my joints, the bones, the marrows, the blood veins. I actually feel energy releasing out of my body when he touches me. That's how important your partner's touch is. That's how important your touch is to the people that you touch. They may not quite recognize it on the level that we've recognized it, but they feel it. There's always a nurturing. There's always a love. It's very important when we use our hands with our partner that we use our hands in gentle, nourishing, nurturing, loving ways. I can't get enough of your hands on my hips. It feels so good. It's like getting a massage. I've saved loads in massages just from having him touch me.
But, I mean, that's what's really the truth. Like, that, those feelings, they don't lie. And we have those feelings with everybody in our life. And you'll know it. Like, where as soon as someone mentions his name, do you light up or do you shy away? Mm-hmm. You know, what parts of you close down? What parts of you light up? And for me, what a twin flame love is, or whatever this penultimate love is in a place where you're with a person where all of you lights up, where she sees all of you, she loves all of you, and she's nurtured all of you, and you've done it together for both of you. And this sharing comes, and you have this culmination of all the sides intertwining and dancing together. So just pressing up against her, touching her, seeing her, hearing her voice, it lights you up. You feel it. And this is an honest, real thing. You know, you can't lie about it. It's what that is every single day you spent together. That is your history. That is your tally of who you really are together. So, sorry, I get passionate sometimes.
We just keep going on. And he started beating the table, so I had to stop him and it confused him for a second. I'm like, no, honey, stop beating the table. For us, I think, I just want to make sure people understand the beauty of your relationship, or if you don't have one, what you're doing to get to that place. And if you're not in a relationship and you're hungry for it, which all of us are, I mean, don't let anyone tell you they don't want a relationship. They do. Deep down in there, underneath a whole bunch of locks and cages, they want that. Everyone does. It's in our DNA, basically, that we're created for relationship. Whether you believe in God or universal energy or whatever it happens to be, I truly believe that we're created for relationship. And so when we're in relationship with someone, we begin to work on those issues. And that's the mirror effect. And even the Bible talks about how iron sharpens iron, and other philosophies do the same thing. When you're in a relationship, you're constantly working on yourself because you've got that mirror right in front of you showing you what a bozo you are at that moment, or how amazing you are, or whatever's going on, and you want to just pound into the mirror and go, no, it's you, but it's you. And not everything is a mirror. Not every person reflecting something back to you or showing you something that you're getting ticked off about is a mirror. I want to flip that one, too, because there's too much in spiritual society that says, oh, well, if you're feeling upset about this, then that's just your mirror. That's not necessarily true. If you're feeling upset about this, sometimes it's just because the other person's just an asshole.
Yeah. Instead of a mirror, let's say we're bridges. And are you meeting the other person in the middle? Is the other person meeting you in the middle? And what is the quality of that bridge? Is that a bridge that can hold both of you up? Is it a beautiful bridge, or is it an angry one? You know, that's what was going on. Who's meeting you in the middle, and what are you two building together?
And if you're not in a relationship, how are you meeting yourself in the middle?
Yes.
Are you meeting yourself beyond the questions of what is right and what is wrong? Are you meeting yourself beyond societal conditioning and behavioral that you have been taught since childhood? Are you meeting yourself in a place of truth, in a place that's totally just for you, that place that you may or may not remember as a child, but it's that place that when you're alone and it's 2 a.m. and you're just sitting there wondering, pondering the universe, and those things that make you passionate, those things that make you cry out, I want to do this, that's where you meet yourself in your middle. For me, those places that always made me cry out were always, I want to help this person. I want to heal the world. I want to show the world love. I want to open people's minds. And that's what I'm doing. That's where I had to go back, though, to find my truth, so that I could do that. And if you're single and you're wanting a relationship, I recommend finding your truth. And then if you need to work on healing issues, things that have gone on, you can find me at skyeburns.com. That's SKYEBURNS.com. And I'll be happy to help you, happy to work with you. We're going to be putting together a website to add David. He's got his own abilities to help people. Or find another compassionate therapist or healer that can actually help you go into your story Pull out what is true. Pull out what has hurt you. Pull out what even is false but hurt you so that you can release it. The only way to truly heal, to truly get to the place to love yourself, is to release those things that have caused you so much haunting pain. And if I can release multiple rapes, sexual abuse, molestation, being shot by my father at 3, all the other abuses that I endured, you can release yours too. And you can find the love that you've always searched for. And if you're in a relationship already, then and you're struggling, find something simple to love about each other.
Find the empathy. Choose the empathy.
Yes.
When you feel the aggression, when you feel the anger, find the hurt underneath that. When you find the hurt, find the empathy underneath that. Because that hurt that you're feeling, your partner's feeling it too.
Very true. Well, we thank you so much for being with us today. This is, again, Yin Radio TV, which you can find more about Yin Radio TV at yinradiotv.com. We are Skye Dunn
and David Dunn, your guest hosts
tonight, and we are so thankful that you spent time with us. We are so thankful that we found each other and that we can spend time with you.